My whole life, I moved country to country, school to school, new faces, new rules. And every time I thought I was starting fresh, I was really just starting over. I didn't grow up with one hometown. I had seven, and none of them ever really felt like mine. I learned how to adapt. I learned how to charm, how to survive. But deep down, I was always asking the same question: where do I belong? Because when you're always moving, you stop getting attached to people, to places, even to yourself. And eventually, you start to believe that leaving is easier than rooting. But not this time. This time, I'm staying. I'm choosing to plant roots in a place called Hua Hin. Not because I've made it, not because it's perfect, but because for the first time in my life, it feels like home. This episode isn't about what I've built. It's not a flex, it's not a finish line. It's about the moments a man stops running and chooses to become. Welcome to the season 1 finale, and welcome to the beginning of everything. Most people don't ask questions. If you want confidence, competence, purpose, you don't need more theory, you need more reps. Welcome back to Clearer Now. I'm Dominic Miller, and this is the final episode of season 1. We've gone deep these past few weeks. Not surface level motivation, but the raw stuff. The stuff most people hide. The truth that hurts before it heals. You've heard where I've been. The football academy in Germany, where I learned what pressure feels like at 14. The boxing ring in Bangkok, where I traded comfort for courage and got punched more times in the face than I can even count. You've heard about the solitude, the sex, the chaos, the calm. You've heard the wins, but also the wreckage that it was disguised in. But this episode, this one's not about the past. It's about where I'm sitting now. What I'm finally building with both of my feet planted. That place is Hua Hin, a quiet little city by the sea. Not spotlight, not flex, no noise, just space, right? To think, to grow, and to build. For the first time in my life, I'm not packing a bag, I'm not booking a flight, I'm not saying goodbye to anyone. I'm staying, I'm planting, I'm becoming. And that changes everything. This episode isn't just the end of season 1, it's the beginning of a whole new chapter. Not just for me, but maybe for you too. So let's get into it. I didn't pick Hua Hin because it's trendy. I didn't come here because I made it. I didn't think this is some influencer move to chase sunsets and act like I found peace, right? I moved here because I was tired of drifting and tired of walking into rooms where I didn't know anyone, and worse, where no one really knew me. I was tired of starting over, tired of packing boxes and calling it adventure, tired of chasing progress with no peace. I wanted something real, not flashy, not loud, but rooted. And that's what Hua Hin gave me. That there's peace here. Do you know what I mean? Not the fake kind you'd see in meditation reels. Real peace. The kind that doesn't demand attention. It just exists. Quiet, strong, and steady. There's beauty here in the stillness, in the morning markets, in the way old men would sip on their coffee like they've already won in life, in how the ocean doesn't need an audience to keep crashing. There's space here to think, to work, to breathe again. And most of all, there are people here. I'm not building in isolation. I've got my boys here. I've got my family, the people who see me for who I am. And that changes everything because I'm not here to get away. This isn't a spiritual detox. This is a decision. This is me choosing to stay, to stop looking for better, to build better right here. This isn't some retirement plan. This is not a pause button on life. This is the beginning of something real. The beginning of a life I can own. One built on clarity, not chaos. Discipline, not distraction. Curiosity, and not content. I didn't choose Hua Hin to disappear from the world. I chose Hua Hin to show up, but fully. This podcast, this place, this moment, it's not a phase, it's my bedrock. I'm here to build, and I'm not planning on going anywhere else. Most people wait until life breaks them to look for a place that gives them peace. Maybe a breakup, a burnout, a breakdown. They then run to Bali, to therapy, to some overpriced villa that they saw on some reel. They think a new location will heal what they refuse to face. But I'm not waiting. I've seen what happens when you keep living without a center. You drift, you grind hard, but your life feels soft. You achieve, but nothing feels earned. You get attention, but feel invisible in your own mirror. And I'm done with that. For the first time in my life, I don't want a next stop. I want a foundation, a place I can return to when life gets loud, a place where I can stand firm, not a pit stop, not a hotel room, not another chapter. I finally want home, not just a physical location, but a spiritual one, a mental one, somewhere that doesn't demand a mask when I walk into the door. I spent my entire life learning how to adapt. I mean, 7 different places, different languages, different cultures, different versions of me. I was the new kid everywhere I went. So I became a chameleon. And yeah, that gave me range, but it also robbed me of roots. I knew how to make friends, but I didn't know how to stay. I knew how to leave, but I didn't know how to belong. And there comes a point in life where you have to stop glorifying motion and start honoring presence. I'm done living suitcase to suitcase, done keeping my options open just in case something better comes along. Because what if the best thing isn't out there? What if it's here, but it only reveals itself after you stay long enough to build it? That's what Hua Hin is for me. A chance to build not just businesses, not just ideas, but a life with meaning, with rhythm, with permanence. A life that can't be packed into a carry on. This isn't a backup plan, this is the plan. And I'm all in. People love to talk about legacy. They see the schools in my vision, the dog shelters, the scholarships, the community projects, and they think I'm already there, but I'm not. Not yet, at least. Those things are gonna come later. Those are the fruits. But right now, I'm just planting the seeds. You see, this podcast, Clearer Now, it's not a brand, it's the soil. These episodes, they're the watering, the patience, the early mornings, the lonely nights, the quiet kind of growth nobody claps for. I'm not building for applause, I'm building for impact. And impact takes time, right? Because real legacy doesn't start with grand gestures, it starts with intention, with decisions made in private that shape who you become in public. I want to build schools one day. I want to build shelters. I want to create systems, not just throw money at problems and call it giving back, right? I want to build something that lasts longer than I do. I want the fruits of my life to feed people I'll never even meet. But before you grow the fruit, you need to grow the tree. And trees don't grow in a place that's chaos. They need stillness, space, soil. That's what Hua Hin is for me. Not the reward, not the outcome, not the flex, the soil. This city is where I become the man who's worthy of building these things. It's where I lay down ego and pick up humility. It's where I slow down and focus. It's where I stop chasing and start rooting. Because the goal isn't to look like I've arrived, it's to live like I'm preparing for something bigger than me. And that's what I'm doing now. One seed, one episode, one day at a time. Season 1 was about me. It was personal. It was, I mean, it had to be. It because before you build trust with an audience, you have to be real with them. And I try to be as much as possible. So I showed you my past, the pain I carried, the pressure I crumbled under, the places that broke me and built me. I gave you the unfiltered version of me and who I was becoming. But season 2, it's not about me anymore. It's about us. I'm staying in Hua Hin. And now I want to do this podcast what it was always meant to be. Hold up a mirror, not just to my life, but to the lives of the people around me. The real people, the ones you pass in the market, the ones who run the gyms, who teach your kids, who drive you home at 1 a.m. in the morning, the ones who never get interviewed, but who carry stories that could change you. I want to talk to the teachers, the business owners, the fighters, the healers, the parents, the baristas, the mechanics, everyday legends. Because I believe in something that most people don't. Every path has a story, and every story has a lesson. And every lesson can be learned if you're willing to listen. If you've grown from hearing my story, then I promise you, you will grow even more by joining me as I listen to theirs. I am not done becoming, and neither are you. Season 2 will be raw, curious, grounded, and full of unexpected wisdom that I am so excited to finally meet. You will hear from people who make Hua Hin home. You will meet the voices behind the vision, and together we'll keep getting clearer. Now, at some point, every man has to stop wondering, not because the world's been fully explored, but because he's finally ready to build. You can't become your highest self if your feet are always moving, if your soul is always packing, if your identity is always being reinvented to survive. Eventually, you've got to stand still, take off the armor, and grow. This isn't the end of my story. This isn't the finale. This is the first time in my life I'm choosing to stay long enough to write it properly. No more borrowed homes, no more temporary phases, no more maybe I'll stay if it feels right. I'm staying because it already does feel right, even if it's slow, even if it's quiet, even if no one claps for it. Hua Hin is where I become the builder, not just of businesses, not just of brands, but of myself. Because because clarity doesn't come from chasing everything. It comes from choosing something. It doesn't come from noise. It comes from stillness, from deep listening, from learning to sit with yourself long enough to understand what you actually need. And what I need is roots. What I need is not just for me, but so one day others can eat from the tree that I've built. But before that day comes, I've got to stay. I've got to water. I've got to build. And that's what I'm doing now. This week, I want you to ask yourself, where are you growing? Are you planting seeds or just picking fruit? Are you running or are you becoming? Find your Hua Hin, not a place, but an energy, a decision to stop performing and start rooting. And when you find it, stay long enough to grow, long enough to listen, long enough to build something real. Because when you plant your roots with clarity, one day the world will eat your fruit. And that's how you build something that outlives you. If this season gave you something real, stick around because this was never just therapy on a mic for me. It was always the beginning of a mission. I welcome you to the journey and I hope things are clearer now.